at the juiced cloud, this is where you're going to do it from, just like everything else with our add-ons. And you're going to go over to Excel Docs. As you can see, I have 3 Excel Docs setups that exist currently. And all we're going to do is we're going to think in our head, okay, which application do I want to add these buttons to? And you're going to go to authorize new application. So we're going to select the relevant user token to the setup. In this case, it is this one for me. And then once it loads, it's going to load. It's taking its sweet time to load. There we go. We're going to select the application. So in this case, I only have one app on this user token. So we're going to select that. And I'm just going to show you really quick. This is the applications document templates, and there is no Excel Docs configurator button here. So then we're going to click this or check this authorize only no setup required button, which is normally just to authorize an app. But in this case, we're using it as well for the process of adding these buttons. We're going to press finish. And then if all things go well and good, it will tell you, hey, we've added the Excel Docs configurator successfully to your app. If it already has the buttons, it will not do anything. It will give you an error, actually. And then all I got to do is refresh, and then boom, we have the buttons on both the master table and the subtable level. And just to show that it works, I mean, it might freak out because this is a Word template and not an Excel Docs template. You know, yeah, this should error on us. There we go. No, it didn't error. There we go. So then it pops open the Excel Docs configurator. So as long as you follow those steps, it should streamline the process of getting it into your existing app. And of course, if you're setting up Excel Docs in any new applications, the new setup will just come with it preset. So you don't have to go through this process at all for any new applications.
Right. And Dylan, I think it's important to kind of mention to clients that these are for those of you folks, whether you're in this meeting or watching in the future, who are already subscribed to our Excel Docs add-on and are now looking to utilize this new configurator. By default, we do need to have some sort of action that's going to add this to your guys' end. We can't just hard install it to all of you guys. So this is something you will have to do. And as Dylan just showed, if you just navigate to the Juice Cloud, many of you know how to get there, but you can just go by, hitting our juicetech.com, log into the cloud. If you don't have a cloud login, please let us know and we'll make sure to get you associated with the correct account. And then once you do that, it's just a matter of going through the setup, just as Dylan showed. And this should be a no-brainer for many of you. And then once you get that button, now we can absolutely have Todd go into a little bit more of kind of how you can utilize that button to kind of leverage Excel Docs even further than you already have. I know this has made my life easier already, so why not show how you can do that?
All right, so here, like Dylan just showed, he installed the button, and so I'm in the demo app, and here is the button on one of our list reports. So what I'm going to do now is kind of take you through he did pop it up and showed you the UI. So I want to take you into a little bit of the details involved in the UI. So again, just clicking the button would pull up a configuration. Now, I'm not going to build from scratch. I'm going to go through some of our demo configurations and then show you how and what things mean when it comes to all the fields and the different options that you have. And then I'll show you some samples as far as the Excel output would look like, just from what I'm describing. So like Dylan showed, once you click the button, you get this main panel, and it has 3 tabs on it. The master tab. Actually, let me take you first through some of the functions here of the UI. We are going to have help on each of these screens, so built into the actual UI. So whatever tab you're on, it'll kind of give you help related to that specific tab. So that's just an option I wanted to mention first. And then Dylan is the creator of all this. He's actually made these some of these little informational pop-ups as well. So you can kind of, where you see the little eye, you can hover over and get some more information as well, as far as help is concerned. This is a grid, so it is sizable. You can drag and drop the column, drag it and size it, etc. Everything is sortable. So if I needed to go and see all my, oops, just refresh that. This is just telling me that I actually have many windows open, and that's why it's telling me that, because it's,
yeah, you can't refresh out of this. You got to close it.
no, I just hit the hit
Or
back.
yeah, go back.
Yeah,
Either
I just
one.
hit the back. So that's what Dylan built in here is that, do you have, you have multiple configurator windows open, you probably want to make sure that you close them out. Well, I do know, and that's kind of what I'm doing here anyway. So for the demo. So thanks, Dylan, for that. So again, sizability, sorting, like I was mentioning here. So field ID, if you needed to find, you wanted to sort by field ID to find your field quickly, to be able to set a cell location, or field name, obviously, and it can reverse sort as well. So you click it the third time, it'll turn the sort off. So here we have, the fields in order. But the nice thing that Dylan built in here too is cell position. So if I click the cell position column, it'll sort of rearrange things by the cell location, so that only those fields that are involved in the data output or the content will show in order by cell. And actually what he's done here too, so since this one particular field has 2 locations, he's sorting by the C. So we're getting a nice sort order here, and it can reverse as well. Okay, so let me now go over to the tabs. So the master tab, the first tab. You'll choose the table you're going to want to drive your content from. So I already have this set to a table, so it won't show all my tables in my application. But if this is brand new, it would have showed all of my tables. But I already have the project selected. Obviously, I'm going to name it free form, and then I'm going to choose an Excel sheet number to signify where I want the content to go. There's an option here for PDF pages. This is actually, and actually Dylan has also built in some hover help here, so you can actually hover over the field, and it'll tell you that you can specify, if you wanted to, as far as your output's concerned, you can specify sheets in your Excel sheet, that workbook, to PDF. So you can actually say, PDF 1 through 3, pages 1 through 3, or 1,3 for the first and third sheet to PDF, to a document. Not always used, but it is an option. And then obviously here, when I specify where I want my fields to go, it's just the cell location. So it's cell B55, cell D10, cell E6, and cell C10, just comma separated. So you just click in and set your positions. The other option that is built in here is the type column can be readjusted. So you can basically direct Excel to change the data type. So Quickbase says, yeah, this is text, but maybe you want it to go as numeric on the Excel sheet, so to write a line. So you can actually change the type, the field type for Excel. So this is the default from Quickbase, but you can direct it to different field types. Second image. Oh, by the way, I won't be able to go to this next tab if I made any changes until you save. So you'd actually have to save. It would flag it. It would tell you it as well. So save changes on the bottom. Second tab is images. So if I had selected any field that was of image, like a file attachment, etc., and I selected that for a cell location, it will show in the images tab, so that I can then adjust width and height. So that's what this images tab allows you to go a little deeper in configuring the images width and height.
Hey, Todd.
Yes.
I had a question yesterday as I was showing this to one of our clients. They had a rich text field that needed to be shown as an image, and it was coming across as a link. So it was a good opportunity to change the type to image.
Exactly, to image, right? Exactly.
That's some of you guys may find is if you have rich text images
Right.
From stuff on the internet, then that
Right.
might
Change it to image, exactly, and it'll represent as an image inside when Excel Docs renders it to the workbook. Correct. Okay, and then last but not least on this main page is the data tables tab. So this is where you'll actually drive reports and or views, queries, etc. So you're going to want to potentially push a bunch of different queries and and sub reports, etc. to Excel. That's where you do that right here. You'd create them, you'd add a new sub table, and then you'd configure fields there. And so let's go and look at, we'll edit one of these subtables. So one of these subtable records brings up obviously another UI with quite a few more tabs. In this example, right, I'm going to take you through the different options that are used by each template, and we'll cover everything. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. So here is the subtable portion UI, right, where I can configure a different option. So obviously my tables and fields. So what row? So that because this is a grid of data, what row am I going to start on? Well, I'm going to start on A12, and I'm going to specify A12 and C and D. So I'm skipping B, E, and F and G. So I'm going to go all these fields I want to place on the template. And so obviously we have the images tab, but I'm not dealing with images on this particular example, so I won't go into that. The data grid settings, pretty much for this example, I'm going to show you that this data grid data table. Is this data table a grid? This option is usually always on because we're assuming you want to bring back a set of rows, but you could turn it off, and we'll look at an example of that in a second. And then there's other options here, not always used, but we'll go through them. And then I'm going to actually specify here in this example, skip rows. So is this data table a grid? Yes. And what we're going to do, we're going to skip rows. All right. So let me show you the template, because that's really all I've defined in this. Obviously, there's another table, another tab called query, and this would actually be what data we want to return. And because the Excel Docs configurator is smart enough to know that this is a related table that we chose, because we chose the project employees table on the first tab, the query will actually line up the related fields and create a query itself. So I didn't actually have to do anything for this query tab. And I didn't do anything for this. We'll get into that in a second. But all I'm doing for this particular example, again, is specifying my cell locations, and obviously, choosing the table and the sheet. And then I'm just saying data grid and skip rows. And so let me show you just what we're looking at here. So this is the template that would be outputted from what we just configured, meaning here's my project record, the data that I specified on the first UI, the first form is the header type info. And then on this second UI that we're looking at, we just looked at here, we are saying, give me all the project employee records and skip, and for each one, list out the first set of data and skip rows. So go yellow here, skip to another row, skip to another row, skip to another row. So that's what this option is actually telling us. Skip rows 2 and go straight down the grid. And so if we go back, you'll notice I do have 3 different queries because each one is going to put data into the different sections. So the blue would be next, and then this white area, and each would skip 2 rows. So the blue query, the next query will go here, here, and here, and then the third query would go here, here, and here, and across. And so that's what we have with these different 3 different queries, if you will, using skip rows. And there was a copy function, so I was able to define my first one and then just copy it and then edit and basically just reselect fields in different locations, right? Start on C13, D13, E13. Again, project employees table, queries the same. So I didn't really have to do too much when I did the copy, except just change some cell positions. So it makes things a lot easier to configure. All right, so let's go to the next configuration. I'm just pulling up another configuration where I want to illustrate another option, and that is subtotals. So here again, we have projects table. So we're on the main UI again. Projects table, I have all my content specified. In my data tables, I have quite a few different configurations. But I want to show you is in this last configuration, we're going to specify, again, fields in certain locations. And we're choosing a table, our table expense sheets. But the configuration that I want to show you here is we're using subtotaling. So subtotal row, what we're doing is we're saying what's going to be when I subtotal, want to place a label under column L, and I want to subtotal columns O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, right? And shade it. And also suppress grand total. So that's this whole area here for subtotal configuration on this tab. So label, where's the label going to start? What columns to total? And you can actually choose as many as you need. You just keep selecting them. It's a multi-select. Suppress my grand totals and shade the row. And I'll show you what that looks like. Let's pull that template over. So here's the output from that particular configuration, specifically showing you that it's going to total, subtotal on the from this grid in column O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, right? So that's what that is here. And it's putting the word total in column L. So this is column L16. So the label goes in L, and then all the totals go right across for each column. So that's kind of what the subtotaling does for you under the subtotal grouping tab. All right, so let's go. So that's subtotaling. All right, let's take you through another option. I'm back at a new configuration. Again, we're using our projects table as the master, right? So this is the main UI again with the 3 tabs. On this configuration, I have data tables, but what I'm going to illustrate here, I'm specifying 4 different queries, if you will, or outputs that I need. And what I want to illustrate here is if I edit one of them. So now we're on the subtable configuration page. Obviously, I'm choosing my fields, which is only 1 for now. But the option I want to illustrate in this example is on the data grid settings. So I have this checked because it's checked by default. I'm not using any other option right here, but I'm looking at now this tab sub report order. So in this example, I'm going to say this query should be the first output set on my spreadsheet. Meaning when I create data or push data to my workbook, I'm going to have all 4 queries. I'm going to have all 4 of these queries dump data to the spreadsheet, but in order. So I want this. I want to just go straight down the spreadsheet, query by query. So whatever this query returns, start that and put that in the columns that I specify, right? And then this query should, after this query is done filling it up, I want to put this query right under it. So, and that again, so that would be tab sub report order 2. So this sub report should be the second in the appending of data to my workbook. All right. So again, I put all my columns where I want them to, all my data where I wanted to start, and utilize my tab sub report order 2. And then I do the same for this row, this query, and this query. Right. And then my output, I'll show you what that looks like. So that would look like this. And what I was trying to achieve with this is basically a CSV file that needed to be generated in a specific format. So the first query was literally this row here. I only returned 1 item from my report, my query, if you will. Second one was, again, only returned 1, but it put it right here. But it was this was a tab sub report order 2. The next query, which is this third option here, was sub report order 3. Oops, right? And this query was just going to return data again straight down the page, with all the cell positions are listed, but it's returning more than 1 row and listing it down my spreadsheet and going from here down to 28. So variable amount of records, but put that right under the first 2 queries. And then the last query says return another value or another set of row of data, and put that on the fourth position. So query 1, tab sub report order 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is a way to create a CSV file, if you will, because you're going to specify output as CSV and get that output in various different, the records are not always in sync, say column wise, but that's okay, because I'm just putting it in a spreadsheet in the various locations I need. So that's what that tab sub report order option under data grid settings did for us. And then next option. So here's another example of, and this will be, so this is an expense sheet, and I'm starting again, projects table. So this is our main UI projects table. Here's all the columns. Here's all the data I need for, say, my header of my expense sheet, right? Because this is the main table. I'm specifying a data table of all the expense sheet details. So when I edit this one is going to, so here's my sub table. And here's all the fields I need. I need them to start in A12, position, row 12, A through J. Just list out employee name and expense, etc. Right? But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say I'm going to utilize these other 2 fields, max line items and max lines type. And basically what this says is place 10 rows on a tab on down the spreadsheet, and then after the 10th, say the 11th row, insert a new tab. And there you actually have a few options. We could do more rows or new tabs, and I'll show you what that looks like. So here's that expense sheet showing the 10 rows of data that I needed, right? But the 11th row, I said, well, don't insert a new row here, just make a new tab. And so actually it was 2 more rows. So 11 and 12, don't put it on the same tab or sheet, because I actually have specified certain calculations, etc., on row 22, and I have subtotaling, and I want to keep that all in the same position. All right, so then just create me a new sheet, insert a new tab, and start laying rows down on that inside that tab. And then if it hit another 10, and on the 11th one for the next set of rows, it would actually create a new tab entirely again and do the same thing.
And Todd, I feel like this is a good place to mention for a use case like that. It's most commonly done for when you're generating as a PDF too, because you have a set construct of the page you're generating, where when you're opening it as an Excel sheet, you're able to obviously, see the whole workbook a little bit better than when you have a PDF.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a great option to have, the PDF output, because you're right. Maybe, if I had 5 tabs, it's more difficult to say work with it that way versus showing a PDF where everything looks like it was generated as if it was a Word doc, or just give me all my data page by page so that I could just click and browse through very easily.
Right. And I would also say, Todd, that sheet that you just showed is probably our most utilized template for our demo. So our demo application actually on the I think it's the second or third tab over, those are the first 2 buttons. So when you generate that as a PDF from the demo,
Right.
it looks correct, looks right compared to some of the other ones that don't have that max line items. It does look like it bleeds over into other pages some more.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. And a lot of these different configurations, really, I'm pretty much specifying, tables and fields and data grid settings, right? My query, again, often is defaulted because it knows, well, the expenses are related to the project, and it knows how. It's by related project, related to the parent record ID. So the project tables record ID. So a lot of this, again, is already preset and ready to go when it comes to the query tab. The only thing I actually did here is I set an ascending order by date. So if we pull up that spreadsheet again quickly, this is it's shown by date. So we're at May 2021, October 2021, and then November. So it kind of sorted by date. That's what that is there. So, but other than that, I didn't utilize any other tabs. I'm not on the images tab, and I didn't do anything with subtotaling. I'm going to show example of that now. But pretty much straightforward configurations. All right, so let me go to show you now another configuration with different options on the data table again. So pulled up another config. This is here's the main UI again. In this instance, actually, interestingly enough, I'm not choosing anything from the master table to go on the spreadsheet. So really what I'm going to do is just utilize my data tables tab to dump data down into multiple different tabs on my spreadsheet. So I don't need anything on the main tab, no header information, etc. So I'm just going to use the data tables tab, right? So I did have to specify a master table where I'm driving this from. So I do select the table, right? And now I'm going to just go to my data tables, and we're going to check each one of these out. So again, new subtable, if I edit it, this one will, so I specify what fields I want and where I want them to go. And no options on the data grid. So just the default, which is, this is going to be a grid of data, and I'm not choosing anything else here. But what I wanted to highlight here is data grouping. So in this instance, I'm going to group by a lead status. So data group by lead status. the column label should go in column A. And I'll show you what that column, that's the lead status value would actually go in column A. We're going to merge all the, and I'll show you what that looks. We're going to merge the band, the grouping band, if you will, and colorize it in this example. And also I have subtotaling involved. And so column F, I'm going to be subtotaling, and I'm going to put that label subtotal under column B. So let's check out what that looks like. Let's see. Okay, so here's my template. And so for that first tab that I just specified, I just showed you as far as the configuration is concerned, you're seeing here that, again, we're grouping, data grouping by lead status. So new leads, proposals, active customers. These are all of them grouped, right? And I said merge, meaning merge all the columns and colorize it to give it a nice looking separation between the data and what the grouping is. And then I'm subtotaling. So one step further here, in this where I specified the subtotal row, I'm saying yes, subtotal to let me know how many leads I have or how many different records I have per each lead status, and specify that, and then total out the column F. So column to total column F, right? And then column for my label for the subtotal is B. One additional option, which is something that isn't necessarily widely known, we actually do have a bubble for it here. So the row label typically says subtotal or total, etc. But we're actually allowed now the option to say subtotal 4 and then put the grouping name inside the band, if you will. So here it says subtotal 4 01 new lead, and that, so it's using the grouping name and putting that next to subtotal 4. So that's what that's doing with that little piece of text grouping. Okay, so that's this first tab. Let me show now. So that was the first view or report or sub report for this grouping. But let me go now and let me go back and show you the second data table. Just take a second here.
Hey Todd, is that how you would do that? You would put greater than grouping, or?
Yes, that's a little unknown option that you can actually specify. Typically, you're just putting a label, subtotal,
Right.
but we allow you to actually utilize the name of the grouping inside in that label, in that subtotal line.
Yeah, see,
That's what that is.
This is why I come to these. I'm
Yeah.
learning something new every day.
Yeah. So, okay. So now I do have 3 reports or 3 queries, and the second one, I'm going to dump my orders out. All right. And the orders are going to go from the orders table on Excel sheet 2. Here are all my columns. Now for orders, I am using, so again, I just specify my content, right, where I want it to go on sheet 2. Nothing new on the data grid settings. Just make sure, yeah, this is checked because it is a grid. I'm not using these other options. But the other option I wanted to show you on the subtotaling is I'm using average. So I'm going to show an average row. So again, label, and this can be, again, this is free form. You can type in whatever label you want. Where do you want the label to start? Column C. And what columns to average? So G, H, and J, and then shade it. So let me show you what that looks like. So this is, again, we're back to this output, but I'm on the orders tab now. So here we're seeing that row, the average row right here. So it dumps all my orders down on this tab 2, and then it averages column G, H, and J. It just gives me an average of all the data here that specified above. And then it colorizes it. And here's the label. So label goes under column C and average those columns and shade it. And that's what it's doing here. Okay, and then the third report I want on this same workbook is my line items. But in this one, I want to show you a little bit more functionality in the query tab. So again, I choose my data elements for my sheet. It's going to be sheet number 3. It's coming from the line items table. Data grid settings, just keeping it the default. This isn't necessary. I don't know why this is here. So that's all I'm really doing right there for that. But the query now, so I want to show you, I'm illustrating here now the power of our query builder. So within the query tab, while I showed before how it sort of defaults in the related tables and knows, yeah, I'm going to pull related data based on master child relationships. But in this case, I'm going, well, I'm going to change the query and say, I want all records that have a record ID greater than 0. So pretty much everything. However, I want the quantity. So the quantity has to be greater than equal 10, greater than equal to 10. And I want any of these product types, widgets, Xbox, sprockets. So you can get, and then I want to confirm price per item greater than 10 and no discount. Discounts equal to no. So the cool thing about this, obviously this looks very familiar. This is pretty much the Quickbase filtering that and you in the regular report builder that within Quickbase. But Dylan actually was able to rebuild that into our query tab. And so it makes it very flexible and functional as far as pulling data, right? Because you can get real detailed with it. And then I have a sort here as well. So if we look at that sheet again, the output, and we're on 3, we're on tab 3. So we're seeing, just like was mentioned in the query, give me orders that are, so all orders where quantity greater than 10, right? Greater than or equal to 10. And product types of widgets, sprockets, or Xbox. A confirmed price per item of at least $10, greater than 10, right? And no discount. And give me row total. So you get real precise on some of the way you might want to query data. So I kind of wanted to illustrate that with the thing. That's all I'm doing in this particular. No subtotaling, no grouping, but just pulling content and
Right. I
and
think
listing it out.
I think the query building aspect of this is really a huge home run because you really don't need to know exactly the syntax for the querying. Now you can just follow, just like you would build a report in Quickbase, you can follow that same workflow that you're used to. And that was the thought process behind when Dylan was building it. And, I know for me, it makes my life a heck of a lot easier. So I can imagine all of you, it's also going to be, extremely beneficial to have that as your option.
Exactly. So I pretty much covered just about everything within the configurator. So I just want to I know I said a lot and showed a lot. I just want to sort of take a checkpoint. If this is really all I have to show, but I want to, if there's any questions on anything that I've shown, we can just kind of take those now, because I am coming up on 2:45. I want to be sensitive to time. So.
Right. So as Todd said, if anyone has any questions on the configurator, now would be the time. I'm also going to reopen up open forum. If you have questions about any of our add-ons, please feel free to chime in. Any of our add-ons or demos or workflows that we have provided to you in the past, you definitely can ask that now. Again, if you rather put it in the chat, you also can do that. Todd, I think you did a great job of explaining it. I think what a lot of people also need to understand is, this is for Excel docs. So this is kind of the sister add-on to Exact Forms Plus, which many of you guys are potentially more familiar with. And this is going to help you generate the Excel versions of your documents. Of course, just like Exact Forms Plus, Excel Docs has the ability to use your own template, and that's what Todd was showing, is how to customize that to populate the data exactly as you're expecting. And I think that this gives you, a number of ways to manipulate it so that it's going to show, directly from Quickbase exactly as you're expecting. So whether you have to show an advanced Excel sheet for, your board members or the executive team, and you want it in a simplified format that the Quickbase export native feature just simply can't do, that's where, Excel Docs is definitely going to be a win for you. And of course, being able to manipulate that data going forward. We're really excited about Excel Docs this year, and the configurator really opens up so many doors for us.
Oh yeah.
To really kind of expand the usage for this, just like Exact Forms Plus, that configurator for the subtables is extremely beneficial for us to make those related data grids. So really,
Right, exactly. It's so much easier now to use the configurator to build out templates very quickly.
right,
So you can literally have a blank template, right? Just start with a blank Excel template, but use the configurator to pull all your content, and then you can build the template around that if you wanted to, all the niceties and bells and whistles and, rich formatting. But just starting with a blank template, get all my data down, dump it into grids,
right.
lay it in different columns, etc. See how it goes, subtotal.
Just today, Todd, someone asked me, do I need to have a template or can I use a blank Excel sheet?
Exactly.
And I
Yeah.
was like, well, I mean, the
Yeah.
template is the preferred part, but
Yeah. A lot of these templates were just blank, right? This is just a blank template.
right, blank Excel sheet. And, obviously, Word and Excel are, two of the most popular tools in the business world, and almost everyone is familiar with them. So as long as you feel comfortable manipulating those two tools, you should absolutely feel comfortable using both Exact Forms Plus and Excel Docs.